So we're here with the famous, world-renowned MD Motivator, Zach.
Nice to be here, man.
Likewise, man. It's great having you. So we were shooting content yesterday. We were doing giving videos. You were schooling me on how to do them correctly. And you've been doing them for a while. And how long have you been doing them for?
Been doing it about 10 months, but first and foremost, thanks for having me here. And
of course.
It was an honor yesterday to work with you, and I'm just excited to connect.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been about 10 months.
Wow. That's not that long.
Less than a year, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, it's like, we connected on social media, and it's rare, sometimes you meet someone on social media, then, you flew down here and we got a chance to connect. And, it's nice to have that chemistry with people, because sometimes you meet them on social media and it's like, then you meet them in person and it's like, you just don't click. So, you're a great guy. It's so nice to meet you. And then we just kind of clicked, and so now we're going to be working together on a lot of stuff. And so it's just cool to connect, man. It's good. You're a good dude.
Well, thank you, man.
Yeah.
Likewise. And
yeah.
As little as you say, you've done like the kindness videos. That's how I found you, right? Was through the kindness videos.
Yeah.
And, your story, and I'd love to pick your brain a bit too on this.
Of course, man. Yeah.
As well too. So I guess, how did this all happen?
Which part?
To get to here right now, if you want. That's a big question, but maybe you want to just give like.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I've wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was like 8, 9 years old. So I remember asking my dad when I was like 12 or 11, probably 11, and I was just like, hey, if I find a business, an idea, will you invest with me? I was like 11. And when I was like 17, 18 years old, I went to Office Depot and I bought a briefcase, and I bought some yellow pads and pens, and I put them in the briefcase, and I would just walk around.
So you're kind of manifesting
with my briefcase. But some of my friends thought it was weird as shit. But I think one of my friends has a picture of it, but I'll have to find it. But I would take my briefcase everywhere, as if I was like, I owned a company. I didn't own shit. I mean, I had like some side businesses, and I had like a Coke machine and a vending machine or something like that, and I would sell stuff that my brothers would give me. I'd call we lived in Tallahassee at the time, and I would call the Tallahassee Tribune newspaper. So when you would call the newspaper, and I'd put an ad for $8, and I'd sell these glasses for $65. And I had people coming to my house, knocking on the door, like, hey, I'm here to see Vic.
Wow.
And I was like 12 at the time, 12, 13. So for me, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I have
a question for you before you go off. When I was that age, I would wear a Kobe Bryant jersey and want to be a professional basketball player.
Yeah.
You wanted to be an entrepreneur. What was the driving factor at that age? Like, why that?
Well, I actually was two things, man. I actually wanted to be, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I also had an idea. I wanted to be a wide receiver.
Okay.
So, like, I'm super fast. People don't know. I can run really fast.
That's a fun fact.
And so I did that for a while. Like, I really wanted to be a wide receiver. And then I realized, like, okay, I'm just, it's not for me. And then I decided to just focus more on being an entrepreneur. So, but I wanted to be an entrepreneur because I just wanted to really kind of steer my own destiny. It wasn't really money. Like, yeah, obviously I wanted to be, wealthy. But that was never the driving force for me. It was really just freedom. The simplicity of it was just freedom. Like, I wanted to be able to do what I wanted when I wanted. And it didn't necessarily mean, like, I don't have this thing with authority or being told what to do. Like, I'm totally fine with it. But throughout my career, I've never found somebody that was sane enough as a leader that I could follow. And had I probably wouldn't have started my own business.
Interesting.
So it wasn't like, like, oh, I have to be my own boss because I'm important. And no, it was just like, I never found somebody, and when I did find somebody, that I felt like I could follow, they had a bunch of bullshit people around them, But that's a way to become successful in life too. Is find somebody that you can follow, and just hang on.
Their blueprint, essentially.
Yeah, just hang on. I mean, successful people have a lot of successful people around them that work for them and with them, right? So it's not necessarily that you gotta, create your own river, right? There's a lot of successful, rich entrepreneurs that have a lot of wealthy people around them that are their executives and help and support team and blah 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 blah.
So if someone's watching this right now and they're driven to be an entrepreneur, but they're not obviously at that stage, mm-hmm. What's your biggest piece of advice for them to find that ecosystem of success? Or
with the power of social media and being able to literally go into your Instagram and type entrepreneur, and you have like hundreds of people,
This happened because of social media.
Yeah, and I would go work for them for free. Like that's what I would do because not everybody's an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's an entrepreneur, and there's some people that are like, hey, I just want to have some freedom, and I want to be able to do something that's fun, right? So if you're not the type of person to go out and start your own thing, then grab somebody's coattails, man. There's nothing wrong with that, and flow power to it and help them. And I guarantee you, dude, you'll be rich.
I have a question for you. If Briefcase you was now in 2022, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to him?
Briefcase me.
You get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Briefcase me. I think.
Sorry. What's the one piece of advice you would give him that he would listen to?
Oh, that's a nice twist there. I think that what he would probably listen to, and the advice I would give would be just really surround yourself with smart people, and really not be. And it's probably there's two pieces of advice. Don't be tolerant of the bullshit. Because I was tolerant of the bullshit for a really long time. And a lot of people are, and I think a lot of people struggle with that, right? Like when I say tolerate the bullshit, I'm not talking about just your employees in your company or people in your company. I'm talking about friends, family, the people that actually affect you the most, right? Like people don't realize like the people that can negatively impact you or positively impact you the most are your friends and family. So I was very tolerant for a long period of time. Had I not been, I would be probably 10, 15 years ahead of where I am today. I mean, that's the impact.
Why are you so tolerant?
Well, I think it's a conditioned thing, right? I think society conditions you into thinking that, for example, you may have a family member, mm-hmm. right, that is super negative and invalidates you and tells you that your dreams and your ideas aren't real, okay, and is kind of squashing you and making you feel less than, and they're not doing it in this obvious way. They're doing it in this kind of like slight, subtleties, the way they look at you,
what they say, or just exactly.
Even the look, dude. You say something that, hey, I want to go do blah blah blah, and they look at you like, and you're like, what's that look? Like,
nothing.
No, nothing. What look? No, I wish you the best, and I would no. So society has this, conditioned response to that, which is, well, they don't mean it. Mm-hmm. They're just looking out for you. They just want the best for you, right? And that's all BS. That's all BS. That the part that people don't want to confront and actually look at is that person is actually trying to destroy you. Like that's the part people just can't get. Like their intention is to actually invalidate what you're trying to do because they don't want you to go up. They just don't. I mean, you look at throughout history. You look what happened to Jesus Christ. Who did he hurt? Who did he attack?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And look what society did. right? So when you look at history, you look at people that are trying to get out of the norm, whether it's in their business or in their life, people attack it.
Why is it people who are doing better than you never seem to bring you down? It's always the opposite.
Well, it's because of that. It's because, the people that are...
Is it like an internal conflict that they have and they're taking it out?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's, to get into the psychobabble in their head, I mean, look, at the end of the day, they just don't want you to do well. Whatever is their own bag of shit, maybe they had a failed purpose as something that they should have done, shoulda, woulda, couldas, and they should have got up and gone to work, and they didn't. So now they see you getting up, going to work, and then that just re-stimulates something for them. Whatever, right? I'm not trying to be their shrink, right?
Yeah.
But the only people that are not going to, suppress you in that sense are usually the people that have what you have, right? They're already there. They're on the other side, and they're like they genuinely see people that are trying to get out of the bucket, as I like to say. They're giving them a helping hand and say, "Look, let me help you out," right? Again, not all of them.
No,
not all of them, but it's people that are really successful are less likely to, generally speaking, just try to squash your idea. For the most part, they're super positive about it.
Absolutely. In the last 24 hours since I've met you, there's probably the two biggest things that I've internally taken away, especially last night I was thinking about, was one, what we talked about, that ecosystem, and two, the value of getting your time back and the ability to create that for yourself with whatever stream it is. So for me right now, it's successful, but it's only as successful as the videos that I put out.
Right.
I always keep making video.
Yeah.
What's your biggest piece of advice maybe to myself or another content creator that wants to be able to be more efficient with their time or focus on things that are bigger than just the video the next day?
Well, I think my philosophy has always been, you gotta get yourself in a position where you're not the one producing, right? So, it's like being a doctor, right? Or a lawyer. If you're the one practicing medicine and you're the one seeing patients and you're the one seeing your clients as a lawyer, then your ability to earn income is capped, right? Because and your ability to have freedom is capped, because if you don't go to work and see patients, or you don't go to work and see your clients, you're not making money. Right? Now, the level above that would be to say, okay, well, I want to own my own physician practice, or I want to own my own law firm, and then now you're starting to go up, right? So I'm a big believer in not having a business of doing something, but in terms have a company or an enterprise that generates revenue, that allows you to have freedom. Because at the end of the day, it's great to do what you love. Like I love what I do, but I also love what I do for the aspect that it allows me to have freedom.
And that's what I've been hyper aware of the last probably 3 or 4 months. Is like, I know it's working, but I also know where I'm capping myself. And
right.
I feel like I'm not in a rut, but stuck on this path.
Right.
And I want to be able to not jump ships, but be able to level up. So if you were me, what would you do?
Well, I think what I would do is, I would kind of look at it from this aspect. I would ask myself, and I think you already have, okay, am I going to do this forever, right? And then the next question maybe would be, can I replace myself? Like, how do I replace myself is really the question you want to get answered. Now, the answer could be...
It's a tough question.
Yeah. How do I replace myself? And I ask myself that repetitively throughout the day. Like, when things are happening, how do I replace myself from this? How do I replace myself? Because you got to take the ego out of it, right? And you got to take the whole, aspect of, I want to be the guy. I don't want to be the guy.
Yeah, I don't.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do you take yourself out of it? Now, there are some businesses and some things that you can't. So that's when you have to pivot. That's when you have to figure out, how do I take the intellectual capital that I've gained right? Because you've gained intellectual capital. You know a shit ton more today than you did 10 months ago.
Absolutely.
And you have a shit ton more relationships and contacts today than you did 10 months ago.
Absolutely.
Right? So now how do you capitalize that and pivot
Mm-hmm.
in the event that the answer to the question of how do I replace myself is not answerable, or it's not, the answer is not favorable for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I had to ask myself, like, how do I replace myself? Oh, I have to replace myself and I have to do X, Y, and Z. Oh, and that's going to require a year or 2 years or 3 years of sacrifice, because I'm going to have to hire people to do something. And that means that if I was making $100,000 a year, now I'm going to make 50. Am I okay with that? For example, I was okay with that. I was okay with having my receptionist make more money than me for 3-4 years, and that was a true story. My receptionist made more money than me.
Was she aware of that too?
Yeah, I think I would tell people. Yeah, yeah. But she did, and so the point I'm trying to make is I was willing to kind of go down
Mm-hmm.
to go back up.
With the ego aside.
Yeah, just like whatever. I wasn't. Again, and you have to battle those conflicts in your head, right? I had friends that were making great money. They had their businesses, but they're today still chained to the business. They're chained to it.
Yeah.
They're doing good. Yeah, and it's kind of like
common, right?
Dude, it's so common. It's so common. Like almost 90% of the people there's very rare that I'll meet an entrepreneur that has a company that's structured it the right way, where he's not a slave to the business.
You are a slave, right?
Yeah.
Once the business works, then it's like it's safe. So why deviate, or like you say, go from 100 to 50
Yeah.
to hope that it will work?
Right.
That's a lot of like blind confidence or faith that you must have had to be doing that. Or did you have someone to emulate, and that's why you felt like you could
Not
take
really.
that path? You just did it.
No, I didn't have anyone to emulate. I wouldn't say it was blind faith. I think it was
Or confidence, to trust in the process.
sitting down and really understanding. Okay, is it workable? Like, I'm a very practical guy, so I'm like, is this really doable? Can I really do it?
Mm.
And if I can really figure it out and almost map it out, like, yeah, it's doable and the numbers make sense, then I'll just grind towards going with that, because it's doable. I mean, I don't consider myself a risk taker.
Just calculated moves, and you were saying like,
Yeah.
this is the problem, X, Y, Z is the solution. These are the 3 ways to get to those solutions. This is the timeline.
Yeah.
So you create that structure.
Yeah.
And you said, I'll never forget this. How do I replace myself? And you didn't just say how do I replace myself. You said you ask yourself that throughout the day.
Yeah.
So it's a repetitive question.
Yeah.
You're always thinking,
Yeah.
how do I replace? How do I replace? How do I get more efficient?
Yeah.
Do you feel like the more efficient you've gone, the more efficient, like it's like a cycle?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that I can sit here and talk to you for, an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm not, everything's still going on. I mean, you've been here. It's like, it's a real company.
Yeah, it's legit. It's legit.
Yeah, it's like, there's real people here. I think it would, what people don't understand is there's a tech to things,
Oh yeah.
right? And people have this idea. I used to have this idea a long time ago. And I was just, they just hit it big.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how they just hit it big. But then when you really start digging into it, what you realize is there's a high level of competency there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Very, very high level of competency. Like, that person has studied their craft and they're beating on that craft every single day, and they're really getting better and better and better at it. So with you, for example, like, I watch your videos and I'm like, man, and then when we were talking yesterday and you were telling me, and he just starts spitting off shit, like, just like, oh, okay, we're gonna do this, I'm gonna talk about it, I'm gonna ask this, and hook this. I'm like, damn, like, dude, you know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And so how did that all evolve for you?
Failure, I guess, of like making videos every single day. But so to rewind a bit, most people don't know the account's called MD Motivator because it's medical doctor motivator. Because I was depressed in medical school in Sydney, Australia, in like August of last year, and I went through a big 6-year relationship breakup. A week later, I had ACL knee surgery, so working I couldn't work out. Medical school was hard. COVID left me trapped. Couldn't make new friends, couldn't make old friends, and just to this culmination of a breaking point that I wanted to reach out for help, but I didn't really know where to go to. So being in that situation and desperate, I thought, make a TikTok video. Like, maybe find a friend online. Like, I saw TikTok as like Tinder or Bumble for maybe my mental health to find like a match, to find a friend.
Wow.
I wanted one video, made a video, it was blindfolded with a sign that said, if you have anxiety or depression, hug me. Overnight the video like had like 20 million views, and more important, I was blown away. Obviously that the video did well. I was fortunate that it did well the first one, but it was more so the fact that I really resonated with the ability when I saw all the comments of people authentically sharing their vulnerability with strangers of all ages, of all backgrounds, and the ability to come together and create a community surrounded by that. And I was really empowered to continue to create content around that. And it felt alive again. So I did that for a few months. Things started to pick up, a couple 100,000 followers on TikTok, but nothing really. But I really enjoyed it. So fast forward, I called my parents. I said, I'm gonna put medical school on hold for 12 months.
Yeah.
And I wanna come back home and live in the basement and make TikTok videos.
Yeah.
And if you rewind 9 years before that, I was kicked out of college and kicked out of my house. So they saw this as a repeat almost a decade later, but just in like a much higher position. So that was a really difficult conversation to have, because my mom was a teacher for like 20 years, so academics has always been important to her in education. And my dad barely finished high school, and he owns like a window and door, blue collar business, like worked his tail off to get me and my brother to wherever we wanted to be. And they've always believed, my dad's always said, people always say, do what you love. But do what you love that allows you to live the lifestyle that you want.
Yeah, so true. Yeah.
And he felt like I was putting myself on a path that I was only completing like part A, do what you love. And I felt like there was something there. And I knew there was something there. So I went home. One of my friends who I played basketball with growing up, he never made a video in his life. His name is Patrick Glass. And he told me, he's like, I like what you're doing. Let's try to do this for 6 weeks. I'll work with you for free for 6 weeks because I think this is going to work. If he didn't do that with a proper camera, this never would have happened. I didn't have the money. I was broke. So we did it. We made a sign that said, back in my hometown, your vaccination status won't change how much I love you. The video was about unconditional love, and it was polarizing at the time. It did really well. And then pretty much since then, that was like the beginning of October. Now it's what? July of 2022. And it just boomed. And as it boomed, I've obviously like pivoted and made decisions and learned so much along the way.
Yeah.
And the biggest piece of advice, like any path you take, isn't so much like how successful it becomes, but I tell Patrick, every time a video flops, that is the best thing that can happen, because we're always learning a lesson.
Yeah.
A lesson here, a lesson here. We're building this like Bible of lessons.
Yeah.
And just very fortunate now. I feel like I'm very lucky that it worked. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of like the path to where I'm at.
Wow.
It was quick.
It's so true what you said. It is like, sometimes I hate to lose. And I didn't realize until maybe a few years ago just how competitive I was. I remember watching videos of Jordan and Kobe Bryant and him talking about how competitive they were, and I was just like, I don't think I'm competitive. I don't know. It wasn't real to me. And then a few years ago, I really started to resonate with that. I was like, wow, I actually am way more competitive than I thought. And the point in that is that sometimes when I fail, you gotta kind of check yourself and be like, oh, okay, like what's the lesson here, right? How do I do? Because I don't like to have the same failure again, right? And so I'm like, so I'm really a big believer in that. Like, okay, I like to dissect, like, why did that happen, and how can I make sure it doesn't happen again? Because I want. It's not that I'm trying to get rid of problems. Like, problems are always going to be here. The only guy that doesn't have problems is the guy that's buried 6 feet deep. He's the only guy that ain't got problems. Well, he's got another problem, but he doesn't have problems, right? But you're always going to have problems. Like I have problems today. I have a ton of problems, but they're different problems. Yeah. Right. I never wanted to have the problem of not being able to pay rent. Yeah. Right. And so for years I worked towards being able. Okay, how do I solve that problem to where that never happens to me again? And I solved that problem, and then it was like, okay, then now you have another problem. And you solve that problem. So I like big juicy problems. I don't like bullshit problems. Yep. But when things don't happen the way that I want them to happen, and I fail, I then look at it and say, okay, how do I dissect that and make sure it doesn't happen again?
I think that's the biggest piece of advice.
Yeah.
is like people run away from their problems, but as opposed to running away, is if you can take one lesson each time there's a problem.
Well, people are trying to live life like they don't like. I don't want to have a problem. Like when people put on their profile things like I'm drama free. Mm-hmm. So stupid, dude. Like
you're putting up a wall or a boundary, and you're not actually gonna grow.
Yeah, you're not gonna grow. You're never gonna be drama free. I can promise you that. You can promise you a boring SOB, but even a boring SOB's got a ton of problems. Like I invite problems. I invite that type of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Because it means that you're growing.
Another thing too, like the most common message I get all the time is like, how did you start? Or I wish I could give away thousands of dollars away, or I wish I could do this for a living. It's like, that wasn't the goal. I was depressed in medical school trying to find a fucking friend and needed a hug.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with like this end goal.
Right.
And one of my bigger motivations is obviously Eric Thomas, but other one's Inky Johnson. And he spoke on this thing about when you're on this like journey of trying to acquire something, it isn't what you acquire, it's how you change during that process of chasing what you acquire. So this idea of like this end game of where I'm at, I don't even think I'm even started, but like this isn't the goal. It's the journey, it's the growth, it's the lessons, it's the problems, it's the solution. That is the beauty in it.
Yeah.
So finding something that you enjoy the process in,
the
hardest thing, but the best thing.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest. I don't know if I have a piece of advice, but
yeah.
How would you? That's a question to you. No matter, how would you find the thing that you love, where you enjoy that day in day out? Obviously, there's bullshit, but.
I always wanted to be I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and then I found healthcare, and I love healthcare, and I really love like my passion is starting and growing companies. That's what I just love to do. I don't really love to operate them, but I love setting them up and
the structural success.
The structural success, the getting into profitability, the setting of the goals, really just designing it, right? It's like babies, you know. I love that. I love the whole game of it, like the whole thing, everything. I love all of it. So I don't feel at all that I'm like working.
See, that's the thing.
Like, at all.
I'm 29, probably most of my 20s until like the last maybe half a year. I didn't see people the way I see them now. I say what percentage of people do you think work that don't like what they do or feel complacent or stuck?
Probably 90%.
Why is that the norm?
That's what I'm saying.
That's the craziest thing.
Yeah.
I was in 7-Eleven last week. It was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, how's your day going? She's like, she's like 45, 50 years old. She's like, it just started, but I can't wait for it to end.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then repeat cycle the next day.
Oh, yeah.
And you're stuck in this purgatory of, I don't know, just living a life that you don't love. So when you see like this road rage or people being rude, it's not.
No. People are miserable. Yeah, people are miserable. You guys love what you do. They're the 10% right there.
And that's amazing.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, that's the 10% right there. Like most people don't love what they do, dude. They just don't. They're just doing it to do it. They're just doing it to do it because it's a paycheck.
Yeah.
And those people never get success. Success isn't about money, dude. That's the thing. Like people think like
it's a byproduct.
It's a byproduct, but success to me, man, is like, you know, it's loving what you do, it's having a happy relationships, having great friends, it's contributing to your church, contributing to your family, contributing to your community, all of that stuff, right? All of that, having a connection, spiritual connection with God and everything, like it's all of that. So it's not just you have $1 million, you make $10 million. That's not. There's a lot of people that make a lot of money that are miserable. Miserable. They have no family. They have no this. They have no that. No stable life. So I always tell people, like, regardless of being an entrepreneur, like, just do what you love. Do what you like to do. And be happy doing that thing. Because that's going to really spiral off into a lot of other things that are going to create happiness.
Absolutely.
And not just chasing money. Like people that just
I wish that was taught in grade school or high school,
yeah.
or like there was like case studies to prove these things.
Yeah. Like I never chase money. Even to this day, I never chase money. I always tell people, don't chase money.
Right.
Like when I talk to an entrepreneur, I want to make $100,000, I want to make $1 million a year. I'm like, dude, you're never going to make that. because you're focused on the wrong thing.
Exactly.
And he's like, well, what should I be focused on? You need to be focused on value.
Mm-hmm.
How can you create value, and how can you make other people rich in the value you're creating?
Speaking of value, one of the things you told me yesterday was about something about the problems you solve equates to.
Yeah, the bigger the problem, the degree of the problem you solve is the degree that you'll be successful. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And to the degree that you focus on creating value and helping other people be successful, you'll be successful.
Speaking of helping and serving others, you don't need to be making online videos of giving back, or downstairs you're building a studio where you're going to be educating young entrepreneurs. Yeah. Why?
Well, I'm trying to bring value. You know, part of me, when I went through all the stuff that I went through, 10 years ago, and I was just completely broke. I remember at that time thinking, hey, if I get through this, that I want to give back as much as I can to other people that are aspiring to have a better life. Because maybe they're not getting great advice from their Uncle Tom, or their cousin or their friend or whatever. So I was like, hey, if I can give back and I can get myself into a position where I can do that, why not? Why not? And I love doing it. I love being able to help. And I get messages all the time from people that are like, hey, I decided to start the business that I was always thinking about starting, or I quit my job and I started my business and did this, or I decided to end this relationship with this friend that was toxic or whatever, or I'm able to now scale my business because I got some advice from what you're trying to do. It's priceless.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's priceless.
Truly change someone's life, and you don't even really know them. You cross paths and change their trajectory.
Exactly. The whole trajectory, yeah. And that's what it takes, man. I mean, for me, it's happened to me too. Like, I remember this one story when I sold my last company. The guy that bought me out, who I'm still friends with today, super successful, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And he bought me out of my company, which I made no money. I got my family sued me and all that shit, right?
Yep.
So I found myself needing a job. Like, I went from owning a company that was doing millions of dollars a year to needing a job, right? And I had my boys were young at that time. I think they were probably 4 or 5 years old. No, maybe 3 or 4 years old. So I had 2 kids.
It wasn't just you at this time, too.
It wasn't just me. If it was me, it would be a whole different situation. But I had a family at that time. So the guy that bought me out, he had a jet, and he would. And this is a great lesson for people. This is something that people really need to get. It really hit home with me. Was he would fly here to Tampa, and he would pick me up in his jet, and we would have these meetings. We'd go to Jacksonville and South Florida and all this type of stuff. He was from New York. And he would pick me up, and one day we came back late, and he was like, hey, I'm just going to stay here at this hotel, and then, hey, do you mind picking me up in the morning and then just giving me a ride to the jet? And I was like, yeah, cool. So the next morning I pick him up, and it was like 7:30, and he's like, hey, do you mind if we stop at Panera to get bagels and coffee? And I'm like, yeah, and I made a joke. I'm like, Jet they don't have bagels and coffee. And he's like, yeah, they do, but they charge me $275 for bagels and coffee. And he goes, and that's not what it costs. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, flying a jet costs $2,500 an hour, fuel, whatever, blah blah blah. It's more now, but back then it was $2,500 an hour. And he said, I don't mind paying that because that's what it costs, right? But bagels and coffee don't cost $275. So what people have to understand is the mentality. Like, I operate that way every single day, like, in my life. Like, I always did instinctively. Mm-hmm. But when he said it, it changed this viewpoint that I had about people that were successful.
Because it's coming from him at that time.
Yeah, because you think people that are successful just pay whatever. And what people don't know is that the people that have created their wealth, I'm not talking about trust fund babies.
Yep.
I'm talking about people that have created their own wealth. People that have created their own wealth, this is how they think. They don't pay $1 more for something than what it's supposed to cost. So my friend was like, look, I'll $2,300, great. Custom shirts, $300, that's what it costs. Patek, it's $100,000, okay, that's what it costs. But bagels don't cost
coffee and bagels.
Yeah. So we went to Panera, and he pulls out his black card, and we buy, bagels and coffee, and it was like $8. We get on the plane, and he leaves. And so I've carried that with me. I wrote about it in my book. I've carried that with me. It was so profound because I deal with it every day, because I have people that come to me, and we have this system in the business where it's like, if you want to spend something, you need to fill out a form and say, okay, what is it for? And what is the return on it? And why are we spending it? And is it a one-time cost? And people wonder, like, dude, you have this big company. Like, why are you paying attention to every dollar? And dude, I pay attention to every, like, what people don't understand is I pay attention, just like he does, to every single dollar that comes in and leaves this company. There's not $1 that leaves this company that doesn't have my sign off. There's not $1 in this company that's being spent that doesn't have my approval. Not one. And I look at it every day. I'm talking about the guy that wants to go spend $35 for some fucking headphones.
Yeah.
It comes across my desk, and I either approve it,
sign off,
or I say no.
You see it all.
So I see it all.
You said it was instinct like nature, that you've always been like that.
Yeah.
Has that increased, or was that just always there?
It's increased. Ever since that day, it's increased, because I don't pay, and I actually put it on a post, I think, recently, like, I don't pay $1 more for something than I'm supposed to. And my financial discipline is so in. And kids and adults have this wrong idea. They think, like, you're just wasting money. Like, oh, you have 2 Rolls Royces, and oh, you just got a Bentley, and like, well, where are you spending your money? Well, what people don't understand is that I actually live off very little compared to how much I produce. Like, it's in the single digits. I live off less than 7%.
Wow.
Of what I earn. Less than that. Right? Less than that. Like, I'm talking about the whole thing. So that's less than 7%. Right?
What's a good number for people to aim for if they're a normal entrepreneur?
I mean, 7%.
7%.
Like I mean, yeah. I mean, people, you go to a financial advisor, and they'll tell you, oh, you can afford your mortgage should be 30% of your income. Dude, my house expense is like less than 1%. Like, I don't fucking waste money on that shit. 30% of your income is your mortgage? Like, how stupid is that? So I'm so financially disciplined from that aspect. Like, I don't spend more on something than it needs to. And I will negotiate the shit out of $1. Particularly when I know it doesn't cost. Yeah, that's just something people really got to exercise that muscle. Like, dude, if we go to a restaurant and it's the bill, it's the bill. But then I'll get people that'll try to you charge me $50 more for something that I know it doesn't cost that.
The water's $1, but they charge you $4.
Don't do that. I will ride your ass like Zorro until that shit gets down to where it needs to be, and that's just how I roll. And people that are successful, that have created new wealth this lifetime, they think that way. Elon Musk talked about it in his book. I don't know if you guys read his book, but he talked about it in his book. He had an employee with him that had been with him for years. And she wanted a raise that was way beyond what it cost, and he was like, no. She left.
Last question.
Yeah.
What's your message to the world? My
message to the world is just really follow your dreams, man. Follow your goals. Like, I think if I can represent anything for anybody, it's just that. Like, I have a high school diploma, I have a GED. Like, I didn't go to college. I had no education, no rich family, no connections, no nothing. I didn't have shit. Like, I was the guy that everyone just wrote off, like, oh, he's not going to accomplish anything. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? Like, you have nothing. So I think my message to the world is, like, dude, if you got a dream, you got an idea, whatever it is, you just got to follow it through. You got to be persistent. You got to not listen to anybody, and you just got to do it. That you actually can do it. If you really persist, you can do it. Eventually, you'll get there.
Yes, sir.
Right? If I walk in that direction, eventually I'm going to come all the way back here, right?
Eventually. Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah. Take action and keep being persistent.
Eventually.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, of course, bro.
Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise.